Hi, I'm Joseph Tapper, and we're going to be talking about the power of the mind. First, we have to talk about what is the mind. I've never learned in school what the mind is. They taught us what the brain is, they taught us anatomy, but exactly what is the mind? The mind consists of three parts: the conscious, the subconscious, and the creative subconscious. Now, the conscious mind deals with everything that we deal with consciously, everything that we experience through our five senses: vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. This makes up our conscious mind. After that, we have a subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind contains images. It's a collection of images that we experience through our five senses. Everything that you experience through your five senses creates an image. Everything you touch, you smell, you taste, you hear, you see, you feel, everything creates an image, and that image is cast on the screen of the subconscious mind. That's our memory. That's what we believe. That's our thoughts of ourself. It's our imagination. Now, we have over 61,000 thoughts per day. So that's over 61,000 images per day that's placed on the screen of the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is not in your brain. Your brain is actually a tool of the subconscious mind. Your brain holds your memory. All those images that are placed in your memory are part of the subconscious mind. Look at your subconscious mind just for discussion's sake. Let's look at it as a screen, a movie screen. All of those images are projected onto the movie screen. That makes up our self-image. Our self-image is a collection of images that we've had from birth up until today. A collection of all these images make up our self-images. Those are images that are projected onto the screen of the subconscious mind. That gives us our self-esteem. That's how we feel about ourselves. We feel about ourselves based on the images that we have collected from birth until now. What everybody has told us: you look handsome, you look fat, you look skinny, you look tall, you're stupid, you're smart, you're ugly, you're ignorant. All of these things create images on that screen of the subconscious mind, and that makes up our self-esteem. That's our script in life. We live according to those images. So that's like the script to a movie. We live our life based on the images on that screen. That is our reality. What we believe is our reality. If you believe that the sky is yellow, then it's yellow to you. Whatever you believe is true to you. If you believe you can do something, or you believe you cannot do something, that's your truth. That's your reality. Your reality is in your subconscious mind. There was a study done with athletes. They wired these athletes up with monitoring machines, EEG or EKG, and they monitored their brain waves. They took these athletes and they let them physically go through the sport that they were proficient at. And then they did another study where they had them lay down and visualize themselves going through the very same sport. And they compared the results from the EEG, EKG, and they found that they were the same as when they had actually physically went through those activities. So the subconscious mind does not know the difference between what we call reality and what it calls reality. To the subconscious mind, everything that it deals with is reality. They say it's all in your mind. That's true. That's where reality exists, is in your subconscious mind. Everything that we look at around us first existed in our subconscious mind. That's our reality. The subconscious mind is the most fertile soil, definitely the most fertile soil on earth. You can plant something in there and it's going to grow. Plant it, nourish it, water it, it will flourish. And that's why subliminal advertising is illegal in most countries on the planet. I still think it's legal in the United States, but most other countries have made this illegal. And here's why. This is how subliminal advertising works. I remember when I was a kid and I went to the movies, a drive-in, they would show these cartoons before the movie started. After we saw the cartoons, we were like, you know what? I'm going to go get some popcorn and Coca-Cola. What we didn't realize is there was subliminal advertising going on. It works like this. It occupies your conscious mind with the cartoons, something that you can see, hear, taste, smell, whatever. It occupies your conscious mind with the cartoons. While your conscious mind is occupied and focused on the cartoons, the movie ran at 32 frames per second. One frame out of 32 would be a picture of popcorn, and one frame out of 32 would be a picture of Coca-Cola. So your conscious mind never saw it. You never had a chance to deal with it consciously. Your conscious mind was occupied watching the cartoons. So while it was occupied, that one frame out of 32 was being fed directly into your subconscious. And after you saw the cartoon, you had a craving for popcorn and Coca-Cola. We're really powerless against this type of advertising. And that's why they made it illegal in many countries. Because if you can slip something in to your subconscious mind, into that fertile soil, you can control that person because that's their reality. During childhood, we develop an ego, and that ego gets stronger as we get older. That ego serves as a guard and protects the subconscious mind and will only allow what it wants to allow into the subconscious mind. So, to get anything in the subconscious mind, you have to get it past the ego. Well, if you can distract the ego and keep it occupied while it's looking the other direction, you can slide something in directly to the subconscious mind. And that's how subliminal advertising works. That's how placebo drugs work. They take a study, they have 10 people in group A, 10 people in group B, and they tell them both, we're going to give you a drug that's going to give you energy, make you feel good. But the side effect is you may get nauseous, you may have diarrhea, whatever. Now, group A is given the real drug, and group B is given a sugar pill, a placebo. Guess what? There's people in both groups that feel energy. It worked. There's people in both groups that had nausea, diarrhea, that had side effects. Why is that? The people taking the sugar pill had the exact same results. Some of them had the exact same results as people that were taking the real drug. That's because the power of the mind. Those people thought they were getting the real drug. They had the real side effects. They had the real effects because they believed it. That's how placebo drugs work. Let's try a little experiment. I want you to close your eyes right now, and I want you to imagine yourself in your kitchen. You're standing by a countertop. There's a cutting board on that countertop. You have a sharp knife in your hand, and there's a lemon on that cutting board. Nice, juicy lemon. Take the knife, hold that lemon, and slice it in half. As you sliced it in half, juices ran down onto the cutting board. Pick up one half of that lemon and hold it up to your nose. Sniff it. Smell that fresh cut lemon. Squeeze it. The juices squirt you in your face. Taste it. Lick that lemon. Taste that sour lemon. Okay, open your eyes. Did you notice that you started salivating and your mouth got moist? And look, you created a lemon. That's because to your mind, that was real. You had a real experience in your mind, and that's our reality. Everything else is fake. Only what's in your mind is real. Our script is our self-esteem. And we have several scripts in life: financial, spiritual, health, career, family. We have a lot of scripts, but those scripts create our self-esteem. We live by those scripts, and they start from birth. We hear people, even before birth, from inside our mother's tummy. Some people will play concert music, classical music. Some people will read to their babies. They're building their self-esteem. They're building images in their subconscious mind from conception. And this happens all the way up until about 3 to 5 years old. They're just consuming, and building that self esteem. Then it gets to a place around 5 years old where we develop an ego. Your ego is part of your conscious mind that acts as a guard to the subconscious mind because we can't let just anything go into that subconscious mind. We have to protect what goes in there. We let only what supports our ego into our subconscious mind. What I learned when I was in the Air Force, I was working on the F-4 Phantom jet, which was state of the art back way back when. Now we're up to F-36, I believe. But this was amazing technology. We were just going from analog electronics to digital electronics. And we sold some of these to Israel. Those pilots in Israel were doing things with this jet that we couldn't do. They were making maneuvers, 90-degree turns in midair and doing all kind of things. We sent a delegation over there to examine the planes and find out what modifications they had made to make those planes do those things. We found only minor modifications, but nothing that would allow the planes to do what they were doing. What we did find was that the pilots, their feet never touched the ground. They were walked on red carpet wherever they went. They were treated like royalty. So their self esteem was much higher than the pilots that flew the planes for the United States. We function at our level of self esteem because our self esteem is a collection of images from conception until now. That makes up our self esteem. And that's our reality. That's who we are. That's why those pilots could fly those planes like we couldn't do. They could make maneuvers that we couldn't do. Words in a sentence create images because our mind, like I said, works on images, not words, but images. For example, if I say the words pink pig, what's going to come to your mind? A pink pig, of course, because when we were kids, we were taught what the color pink was. We were taught Old MacDonald had a pig. So we know what a pig is and we know what pink is. So when I put the two words pink pig together, it creates that image. Now let's try it again. Whatever you do, do not think of a pink pig. No, no, no. Don't think of a pink pig. I'm telling you, whatever you do, do not think of a pink pig. What happened? You thought of a pink pig. Why is that? Because none of those words in that sentence creates an image, creates a picture, except pink pig. So your mind didn't pay any attention to the rest of those words, only the words that created images. And that's what our mind focuses on. And that's why it's detrimental when people say, I'm healed from cancer. All your mind hears is cancer. It would be better to say, I have perfect health. Speak what you want, not what you don't want. There is a way that you can stop thinking of a pink pig, and that's by thinking of a brick wall. What do you see when you think of a brick wall? That's right. You see image of a brick wall. So you can choose what you want to see in your mind by choosing what you focus on. Now, the creative subconscious mind is like the director of a movie. The director reads our script and it only deals in reality. There's no truth or lie, no distance or time. It's not limited to the confines of the human brain. It is connected to the powers of the infinite and has the ability to create. It reads your script. So the creative subconscious is looking at the screen of the subconscious mind, and it's looking at the images that's on the screen. The creative subconscious, the director, is going to make a movie based on your script. For every part of your life, it's going to make a movie based on your script. But there's so many scripts, so many images. It can't create all of them at the same time, but it has to choose an image to make a movie because what we have in our subconscious mind equals our movie. Our movie is our created reality. What is created reality? Our reality is what lives in our subconscious mind. Our created reality is what we experience every day. If you look around the room that you're in right now, what do you see? I see pictures on the wall. I see a door. I see a wall. I see a window. I see a floor. None of this existed until it first existed in the subconscious mind. Somebody had an idea how to make a room, whether it's in a house or business, office building. Somebody had that idea in their subconscious mind. They took that idea, transposed it to paper, they took it to an architect, and the architect listened to what that person had on the screen of their subconscious mind. They described it to the architect. The architect drew the picture out, and the person looked at that picture and said, no, 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 that's not totally correct. There's a window there. You didn't put a window there. Well, how do you know there's a window there? Because it's real in your subconscious mind. You can see it in your subconscious mind long before it's created. Okay, the architect changes it, puts a window there. You say, oh, wait a minute. There's a bathroom there. Yeah, it's supposed to be a bathroom there. The architect makes the changes. Now the architect has everything finished, and you look at it and you say, yeah, that's it. That's it. That's perfect. Now the architect takes that to the construction company, and the construction company builds that building according to that design. I had a friend that was watching his house being built, and he would visit it every day. And he caught him one time putting a window just a foot over from where it was supposed to be. Well, how did he know where that window was? It was in his subconscious mind. And they made the corrections while they were building the house. So the image is real in our subconscious mind. So we can correct the architect and we can correct the construction crew. But the reality is in our subconscious mind. Everything around us that exists first existed in someone's mind. The director or the creative subconscious looks at all the images, and there's nothing that it can really use to create a movie because there's over 61,000 images a day. So what it does, it looks for one that stands out. It's called a dominant image, one image that becomes dominant over all the other images. Some people call it a goal. Some people call it faith. That's what your faith is a dominant image, one image that stands out above all the other images. That's your belief. If I tell you that the sky is made of cheese and you believe that, that's what you believe. That's your faith. That's your dominant image. Some people call it vision. It's the same thing. That's a dominant image. If you have a vision, that's going to be a strong image in your mind. Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. That's a dominant image. It stands out above all the rest of the images. All of this equals your script. The creative subconscious, that director, is going to look for a script. The script is a dominant image that stands out above all the other images. One that is just screaming to the director, make a movie out of me. Make a movie out of me. Now, how do we get these dominant images? One way is repetition. When you experience something in your conscious mind, whether you see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, or touch it, it creates an image on the screen of the subconscious mind. That image is just like these. They're all the same size. They're all the same. But if you experience that again, you see it again, you hear it again, you smell it again, that image is created again, right on top of the other image. Every time you experience that, that image is put on top of that other image, the same image. After a while, it becomes real dark. It becomes real vivid. That one image that you have experienced over and over and over and over again, it becomes a dominant image. It stands out through repetition. That's how we create habits in 20 to 30 days as we do something over and over and over again. And then it becomes an image on your subconscious mind. And then you do it automatically after that. You ever notice you drive home from work and sometimes you wonder, how did I get here? That's become a dominant image, and you're doing it out of habit now. Another way is through delegation. We create dominant images by delegation. We have the power to create these images. We have the power to control our life, but sometimes we delegate it to other people, like doctors, lawyers, ministers, coaches, teachers, counselors, all these people that we look up to. We have delegated to them the power to create a dominant image. And they can do it instantly. Repetition is one thing, but when we delegate that power to someone, they can do it instantly. For example, you're feeling fine. Men can relate to this. You're feeling fine. Your family tells you go to the doctor. You go to the doctor and they tell you you have 6 months to live. You've got Boomwaki disease, something you never heard of. And they tell you you got 6 months to live. We place confidence in that person with that lab coat on. And what happens? 6 months later, they're dead, only to find out that person with the lab coat was working on the copy machine and he had a lab coat on. He wasn't even a doctor. But we delegate to those people the power to make dominant images. That's why they tell you get a second opinion, because those people have power. Ministers, coaches, mentors. Imagine you go to a mentor and they tell you, you've got no talent. Give it up. That's what they told Oprah Winfrey, that she did not belong on national TV. She didn't have the talent. She was too emotional. Well, as a side gig, a consolation prize, they gave her this part on a talk show. She was part of a talk show. Well, look at her now. You have the power to create your own image, but we delegate it to other people. You have to be careful to who you delegate it to. Emotion. That creates a dominant image. Emotion is so powerful. We are emotional beings. The key is to use emotion to your benefit. Don't let emotion rule you, but you use emotion to your benefit. There's a place and a purpose for emotion. When you have an experience and it's added with emotion, that instantly creates a dominant image. I remember one time I was driving to work, and on my way to work, I saw an auto accident after the accident, and I saw the yellow tarp that was over something, and I knew that there was a dead body underneath that yellow tarp. And man, that hit me hard. And I went to work and I'm just doing my job during the day. And later in the day, I just noticed how sad I felt. And I was thinking, why am I feeling so sad? Having a great day at work. Why am I feeling so sad? So I replayed my day and went back, and then I remembered. I saw that yellow tarp and it created a strong emotion. And that strong emotion created an image that ruled my day. When the creative subconscious sees a dominant image and focuses on that and uses that to create a movie, the movie that we call life, it will compare the script to the movie, just like they do in Hollywood. When a director is directing a movie and something happens that is not on the script, the director will say, cut, and they'll go back, they'll redo it until they have an accurate depiction of what is on the script. The script has to equal the movie. Creative subconscious looks out through our five senses and sees the movie, and the movie does not equal that dominant image. The creative subconscious will bring about changes. And so we have to learn to control what we do, what we delegate, what we feel. And that's why I stopped watching the news a few years ago, because everything you hear on the news is creating an image. The news says we're in a recession. And what happens? We end up in a recession because people believe it. They let it go into their subconscious mind and they start living like a recession. They clamp down on their savings, their spending. They stop spending money. You stop spending money, that's going to create recession. And so whatever we let into our subconscious mind is going to create an image. And if you hear it every day, it's a dominant image. You hear it from somebody that you believe in, that you've delegated the power to, that's an image. If you see it with emotion, which when you see the news, there's a lot of emotion. There's murder, there's crime, there's all of this that creates a strong emotion. It creates a dominant image. And that dominant image creates your reality because the director finally he has something to work on. There's one image that stands out above all the 61,000 images a day. It uses that image to create the movie that we call life. The creative subconscious can bring about that dominant image by causing us to live according to the script. And how does the creative subconscious do that? It gives us desires because we're led by desires. We do what we desire to do. And so the subconscious mind will speak to us by desire, making us desire something and go in that direction. That's how the movie that we call reality is being made by being led by our desires. That desire came from our creative subconscious. The creative subconscious is trying to create a movie based on the script of the subconscious mind. Aha moments. Those aha moments came through from the creative subconscious that's trying to lead us in a certain direction. Intuition, it's the same thing coming through from the creative subconscious. Ideas, those light bulb moments, that's the creative subconscious coming through. Dreams, we have dreams that come from the creative subconscious that will lead us in a certain direction. Write them down. When I meditate in the morning, I take a tablet, and after I get done meditating, I write down what comes to me because these things come through from the creative subconscious. How do you think the telephone was created? Radio, these crazy inventions, they came through from the subconscious mind. I believe it was either Einstein or Thomas Edison. I think it was Einstein. He said that most of his inventions, he received them in dreams because there's things that are coming through from the subconscious mind. You've got to write it down. They're going to be ridiculous, but write them down. Here's my story. I play the saxophone. Now, I'm probably by far the baddest jazz saxophonist that lives at my house. But years ago, I was just mediocre. I played in church. That's where I was learning to play. I played in church and I was just good enough. And that was it. I never practiced. Even in school, I didn't practice. I would have been really good if I had practiced, but I never did. I was just average. I was just good enough. And one day, at the church that I was playing in, we were having a choir meeting. And the drummer brought up a question. He said, you know, we go on these trips and we perform at different churches, but I don't hear about it until the day before we go. And I'm the drummer. So I spoke up and I was joking, but I said, bruh, I don't hear about it until the day before we go also. And I'm the baddest saxophonist in the state. And everybody laughed, you know, it was funny. But what happened after that, Sunday, when we came for service, the choir members, as we greeted each other, they walked by me. They said, hey, there goes the baddest saxophonist in Virginia. Again, Wednesday night, whatever, whenever we met again. Hey, there's the baddest saxophonist in Virginia. And this was a joke. But remember, the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between joking, a lie, truth, reality. All it does is accept images. And so it heard that I'm the baddest saxophonist in Virginia. I even said it myself. And so repetition, every time they said that, repetition, repetition, all of a sudden it became a dominant image. My creative subconscious used to see an image that I was just average, I was mediocre. Now there's a dominant image that says I'm the baddest saxophonist in Virginia. Well, it looks through the lens of the conscious mind and it compares what we see in the movie to what is on the image of the subconscious mind. The creative subconscious compares the two. And when there's inequality, the creative subconscious will do whatever it takes to make our movie equal the script. It's just like in Hollywood. When the director is making a movie and the movie does not equal the script, the director says, cut, and they have to redo it until that movie is an accurate reflection of the script. So now the creative subconscious sees an image that I'm the baddest saxophonist in Virginia, but compared to the movie that it saw, I was just mediocre. So how did it change? All of a sudden, I started getting the desire to practice. Like I said, I never practiced. I would practice 30 minutes in the morning. And then the desire got stronger. I would practice a full hour before I went to work. That desire was still strong. This is how bad I was, how mediocre I was. I got the desire to practice when I got home from work. So now I'm practicing an hour before work and an hour after work. That desire was still strong. I started taking it to work with me. And I would find in Virginia, in Richmond, there's beautiful parks. I would find a park and I would sit down on a bench, take my horn out, and I was practicing. I had 1 hour lunch. Took me about 10 minutes to eat my sandwich, if that, 5 minutes to eat my sandwich, and I had 55 minutes left. I would practice for an hour for lunch. So now I'm practicing 3 hours a day. There's only one thing that can happen if you practice 3 hours a day, you're going to get better. Shameless plug.
exhibit comes to us from Japan and Mr. Masuro Emoto. Mr. Emoto became terribly interested in the molecular structure of water and what affects it. Now, water is the most receptive of the four elements. Mr. Emoto thought perhaps it would respond to non-physical events. So he set up a series of studies, applied mental stimuli, and photographed it with a dark field microscope. This first picture is a picture of water from the Fujiwara Dam. And this picture is the same water after receiving a blessing from a Zen Buddhist monk. Now, in this next series of pictures, Mr. Emoto printed out words, taped them to bottles of distilled water, and left them out overnight. This first photograph is a picture of the pure distilled water, just the essence of itself. These subsequent photographs, as you can see, are each different. This is the chi of love. And we move along here to thank you. And you can see where he taped that to this bottle here. But if you read Japanese, you already knew that. Now, Mr. Emoto speaks of the thought or intent being the driving force in all of this. The science of how that actually affects the molecules is unknown, except to the water molecules, of course. And it's really fascinating when you keep in mind that 90% of our bodies are water.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? If thoughts can do that to water, imagine what our thoughts can do to us.
Say what you want, not what you don't want. The words that come out of your mouth should be words that express what you want. Power words. Power words influence, persuade, and motivate. There are words that can stimulate our minds, words that can influence, persuade, and motivate our confidence, energy, and self esteem. Remember earlier, I told you that not every word in the sentence creates an image. There's words that create images, and those words we have control of using. We should use power words. Here's a list. You can take a picture with your phone. These are a list of power words. And that's because we have associated meanings to these words. As an infant, these are not power words, these are just garble. We were taught over our lifetime meanings that are associated with these words, and these have become power words in our language. These words can influence you. Take a picture of that. Learn to use these words to replace other words in your vocabulary. When you're speaking to yourself, when you're writing things to yourself, say what you want, not what you don't want. There's poison words that deflate, destroy, and defeat. These words can poison our minds. They discourage, defeat, deflate, and destroy our confidence, our energy, and self esteem, but can't. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. If only, maybe, might. Look at try. You can't try to do anything. Try isn't even an attempt. You either do it or you don't do it. Now, let's recap. The subconscious mind is like a screen. That's our reality, our script, our self image. It is an accumulation of all the images until today. All the images that have projected on that screen until today makes up our self image. Our creative subconscious is like a director to a movie. When you're speaking, you have to speak the language of the mind. Remember, to the mind, there's no past, present, or future. There's no tense to the mind. The mind is. I am, not will be, I am. The power of I am is the power of the creative subconscious. The creative subconscious exists in present reality. So if you tell your mind, I will be, I'm going to be, you are, let's look at that. If you say, I will be a lawyer, well, the creative subconscious looks at that and says, okay, you will be. That's future tense. It's always going to be in the future. I'm going to be a lawyer. Again, that's future tense. Or if you say, you are successful, the creative subconscious says, okay, we're talking about that person over there, right? Not me, but you. Someone over there, you are successful. Speak the language that the creative subconscious speaks in present tense. I am. I am. Anything you put behind I am, you have the power of the creator behind you. If you want to be a lawyer and you're going to college, the date of your graduation, it is June the 6th, whatever the date is, and I am graduating from law school. speak it in present tense, then the creative subconscious can use that script to create a reality. Because whatever we put on our subconscious mind, we can create the script by repetition. We can get someone that we can delegate it to, get a coach, get a mentor, and we can add emotion to it. Imagine if you do all three of those things. If you write out a script and read it every day, if you tell someone in confidence, a mentor, share it with them. Be careful who you share it with, because if someone does not is not empathetic to your dream, they can laugh at it, they can put you down, they can poison your subconscious. But you delegate it to someone in confidence that believes in you, and then you add emotion to it. That's powerful. That's powerful. You create your own dominant image. Once you create that dominant image, forget about it. I mean, you can think about the dominant image, meditate on that, but you're not trying to do it. The creative subconscious is going to do it. Think about people that go on a diet. They lose weight because they come up with these steps. Okay, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to stop eating sweets. I'm going to do this, do that. They got a whole list of things to do, and they do it. They lose weight. But what happens? They never change the image on the screen of their subconscious mind. So the director looks at that image and it sees a fat person, but we've lost 100 pounds. So the director looks through the lens of our of our conscious mind through the eyes, and it sees on the bathroom scale that we weigh 100 pounds. But the reality to the creative subconscious is the image that's on that screen, a fat 200-pound person. So what happens? The creative subconscious leads us by desires. So all of a sudden, you lose your desire to go to the gym. You fall in love with this show on TV. You desire to watch it every day. And then you desire to watch another show. And then you're sitting on the sofa and you start desiring snacks. You start desiring sugar foods, and you put that weight back on. Now the creative subconscious looks at the image on the screen of the subconscious mind, compares it through the lens of the eyes. Now they equal. Now you're back to 200 pounds. And that's why people, they go on a diet, they lose weight, then they turn around and gain it back, and usually gain more after that. It would be easier to change the image on the subconscious mind screen and forget about trying to diet. Don't even worry about dieting. Change that image and watch what the creative subconscious will do. All of a sudden, you get desires for salads. You want to park as far as you can away from the store so you can walk. You get a desire for walking. You get home, you want to go for a walk. All these desires come to you based on the image that you have on your subconscious mind. Now, let's create a written script. A lot of things happen when we do this. We see it, we read it out loud so we can hear it. Remember, we've got 5 senses, and everything we experience through any of our senses creates an image. You want to create a dominant image, then use more than one way for the image to get to your subconscious mind. First, decide on a script. And like I said earlier, we have many different scripts for your health, for your finances, for your career, all these things. So decide on a script. And I want you to dream. Many times people will go to, for example, they'll go to law school, become a lawyer, and they'll quit and start drawing art because that's what they want to do. They were doing something their parent wanted them to do, but finally they did what they dreamt of, what they had on their subconscious mind, what they've been dreaming about since they were a kid. So decide on a script. What is it that you want to do? Find your passion. If you don't know what you want to do, try this. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself this question. If money was not an object, what would I do with my life? And I want you to listen for what comes through. Spend time in silence doing this and write down what comes through. That's your creative subconscious. That's the creator of the universe. There's a plan for your life. a plan that once you find it, you will find ultimate success. You've got the creative force of the heavens working behind you. Ancient proverb said, when a person seeks their purpose, the universe conspires to answer. Why? Because there's a purpose that the universe has for you. And once you start looking for that, the universe has just been sitting there waiting. God has been sitting there waiting for you to ask that question. So now he can start working with you. Now you have a hunger for it, it will come forth. Let's deal with limiting beliefs. Now, what are limiting beliefs? Limiting beliefs are beliefs that we have deep in our subconscious that we aren't even aware of having. Things that we've been told growing up, that we've heard all our lives. Things like, you can't be rich unless you go to college. You won't be successful unless you have a college degree. You're going to be just like your daddy. You're no good. You're not smart. You're not too bright, are you? You'll never amount to anything. You can't read that good. You're never going to go anywhere. We may have heard these things from someone that we delegated the power to create images, like a parent, a teacher, a principal. They've created an image in our subconscious mind that pops up when you least expect it. For example, you may see someone that wins the lottery or comes into a lot of money. Someone wins the lottery and a year later, they're broke again. Even athletes. The average professional NFL player, 2 years after their career is over, they're broke. And that's because of those limiting beliefs. They believe that they're not good enough to have a lot of money. Everyone around them is going to see self sabotage. But what's going on in the mind is the creative subconscious now sees this person with millions of dollars, but yet the script, the image on that screen of the subconscious mind is a person that's poor, that's unworthy, that's not smart enough, that's not tall enough, that's not bright enough, that doesn't have a college degree, all these limiting beliefs. And so, what the creative subconscious will do, it has to make the movie that we call life, it has to make that movie equal the script. So now we're going to get ideas and desires to make bad investments, bad decisions, start giving money away. And then a year later, they're broke. And that broke image matches that broke script. Now the creative subconscious is happy because the movie that we call life has to equal the script on the screen of the subconscious mind. So, why do you think you don't deserve this? That's how you can smoke out limiting beliefs. Ask yourself, why do I think I don't deserve this? Again, close your eyes, ask yourself that question. Why do I think I don't deserve this? And then write it down. Let's say your goal was to be a millionaire and you have the limiting belief that you have to be a college graduate to be a millionaire. If that comes up when you ask yourself that question, why do I think I don't deserve this? Write it down and then you can examine it. Do some research and see if you can find anybody else that's a millionaire that doesn't have a college degree. You'll find that most millionaires today were college dropouts or didn't go to college at all. That will dispel that limiting belief. Now that's out of your life. If you had a list of things that came up when you asked yourself that question, you can deal with each one of them individually and just explode those limiting beliefs right out of your life. What obstacles have prevented me from obtaining my goals? Another question to ask yourself to smoke out limiting beliefs. What obstacles have prevented me from obtaining my goals? Then you can examine what you write down, what those obstacles were, and you can look around and see that other people have done what you want to do and had the same obstacles. And if you look at it correctly, you'll find out that those obstacles were really sent to help you. Look back in your life now, and you can find things in your past that you thought were bad. At the time, it was terrible. But now you look back and you say, wow, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have done this. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have met this person. I wouldn't be here now. So obstacles are sent to guide us. They're like road signs. They tell you, turn left. This isn't working. Turn right. This isn't working. Back up and go a different direction. What am I going to do with the completion of this dream? Whatever it is that you have, whatever your desire is, what are you going to do with the completion of this? You need to examine that because if the motive is wrong, you need to re examine your dream. Am I going to just consume this upon myself just to live a lavish life? Well, that's fine, but you need to have a desire to help humanity. Whatever it is that you want to do, you need to have a desire to help and share it with humanity. That's why Bill Gates was so successful because what he did touched all of humanity. He invented something that helped all of humanity. And when you help humanity, you have the power of the creator working with you because that's what the creator wants to do is help humanity. That's the apple of his eye. So if you come up with an idea that's going to help humanity, then you have the power of the universe working with you. Now, get 3x5 cards and I want you to write your script down. Write it down using the power words and avoid the poison words. Write it on a 3x5 card. Here's an example. I am now a professional musician. I have a great impact on my audiences. They are easily inspired by my music because of the spiritual content. My purpose is to bring joy into the lives of the listeners. I generate standing ovations each and every time. This makes me feel loved and appreciated. I am so grateful for the ability to do this. My wife is so pleased. Now, the words in red are power words. The words in blue are emotional words. The word in green, that's delegation. You're doing all of this in your mind. You're combining the power words, emotion, and delegation all in one. Now you write this down and you read it. So we're using repetition, delegation, and emotion, all three. Read this thing every day. Put it on your bathroom mirror, put it on your bedside table, read it before you go to sleep, read it the first thing when you wake up. Now, after you read this, I want you to close your eyes and visualize it happening because it says, I am now. This is present tense. So visualize whatever it is, visualize it happening. Close your eyes and visualize it and add emotion. Get excited. This is what we've been given emotion for. It gives us the power to create. You're creating that dominant image. That's your reality. That's the movie, the creative subconscious the director is going to make. You're creating that script for that director. So use emotion. Read this, close your eyes, visualize it happening, and be excited and grateful that it happened. Gratitude. It is now June 6th, whatever year, and I'm graduating with my law degree. I'm so excited and energized. I feel so proud of myself. My family is so happy for me. I'm realizing my goal. I am easily in the top percentile of my class. Wow, I'm so happy. We have delegation, we have power words, we have emotional words, all of it combined into one script, and it's present tense. Well, the date may not be June the 6th. Maybe it's January the 3rd. That's fine. You're creating an image of what's going to happen. When June 6th comes, this is going to happen. Your creative subconscious mind is leading you by desire. All of a sudden, you wanted to go to college and take underwater basket weaving. No, you have the desire to take courses that are congruent to your law degree. If you didn't have a goal, then you're just going to go to college and take whatever classes and get a generic degree. But you have a dream, you have a desire, you have a goal. You're going to take classes that are in alignment with your goal. Now, here's a good weight goal. I now weigh X number of pounds and I'm so pleased with myself. Now, choose the weight that you want to be and put that on your script. I'm so excited and energized because each and every time I get on the scale, I am realizing my goal. I feel so proud of myself. My family is so happy for me. I am realizing my dream. In fact, I am easily achieving what I want. Wow, I am so happy. I'm now filling my lungs with fresh, clean air. This is for someone that maybe they smoke cigarettes and they want to quit. That's difficult. Even cold turkey. Some people have done it going cold turkey, but it's difficult. And that's because you have the image of a smoker on your subconscious mind. Well, use your creative subconscious in your favor for your benefit. I am now filling my lungs with fresh, clean air. I enjoy the impact it is having on my health. I feel so proud of myself. My family is so happy for me. My lungs are healthy and clear. I feel so good when I take deep breaths. Wow, I am so happy. Emotion, delegation, and power. If you just said, I'm going to quit smoking cigarettes, well, cigarettes creates an image. So what your mind sees is the image of cigarettes, and you're just creating more cigarettes. So speak what you want, not what you don't want. My knees now feel so good. They feel youthful and flexible. I enjoy the impact it is having on my health. I am able to walk for hours and feel good doing it. They feel vibrant and energetic. I feel so good when I walk and run. Wow, I am so happy. Now, this actually happened to me. I used to jog about 5 miles every morning. And invariably, what would happen is I would get a pain in my knee and I would stop and start limping. And I would limp and limp until I got back home. And after a few days, put ice on it or whatever, it would go away. And I would do the same thing again. One day, I just thought about it and my knee was hurting. I was limping and I stopped and I said, wow, my knee feels so good. It's amazing. It feels so youthful and flexible. That's awesome. And I just added so much emotion. And I'm still walking and limping. And I'm just talking about how good my knee felt. And all of a sudden I noticed my knee didn't hurt. And I started jogging again. And I blew myself away. I really didn't expect it to work that quickly. But the pain left. And now, throughout my day, as I'm walking at work, going from one place to another, I'm talking to myself. I am going down my body. My shoulders feel great. My knees feel good. My hips, oh, it feels so good. I feel youthful and flexible. I'm creating my body. I'm writing the script all throughout the day. Instead of thinking about the economy, the news, murder, and all that stuff, man, I'm just writing scripts for my director, my creative subconscious. When you write that down, read it 3 times a day. When you get up, that's the first thing you grab on your bedside table and read it. Close your eyes, meditate on it, see it in present tense, visualize it with excitement and gratitude. That's a powerful thing you have to add to it. Gratitude for what has happened because it has come into fruition. It exists now. And so you feel the gratitude. Put one on your sun visor in your car or in your notebook, your portfolio. Maybe you ride the bus. Think about it during the day. And then when you get home, before you go to bed, or when you go to bed, before you go to sleep, read it again. Close your eyes, visualize it, and express gratitude for it. After 23 to 30 days, it becomes a habit. You'll think about it all the time. You've created a dominant image. Now the director is working in the background. You're going to start getting desires. You're going to be led in a certain direction. You're going to want to practice your horn. You're going to want to do things that's going to be congruent to that script, that dream. First thing in the morning, during the day, last thing before you go to sleep. When you go to sleep, you fall into the subconscious realm. So let that be the last thing that you think about, that you visualize before you go to sleep, and you visualize it in first person. So that movie can be made. You can create that dominant image. Now, don't worry about how. How is not your job. How is up to the creative subconscious and the power of the universe, the creative force of the universe. That is their job. And over time, revisit it. You might have to tweak it, rethink it, find out you didn't have a passion for it. You know what? You find out that passion was not yours. That was your parents' passion to go to law school. You really want to be an artist, a musician, or something else. So it's really difficult to fulfill someone else's passion and be happy. You can do it, you can fulfill their passion, but you're not going to be happy because that's not your passion. So revisit your goal and find out, hey, is this something that I really want to do? You may have to tweak it and you'll find out that, okay, I had to get to this place, because if I didn't get here, I wouldn't be able to see over there. Now that you're there, now that you're in college taking law, you realize, you know what? I really want to be a police officer. So continue moving, listening for the aha moments, for the desires, for the ideas, because the creative subconscious is going to speak to you and lead you by those desires. And have patience. Let patience have its perfect work. Let patience do its job. Just keep moving forward. Don't worry about how, all of that stuff. Just keep moving forward and be sensitive to the voices you hear from the creative subconscious, the aha moments, the ideas, the intuition, the desires. Be sensitive. Don't negate it. Don't throw it away. Don't ignore it. But be sensitive and say, hey, why am I desiring this? Look into it. Challenges. Challenges are your friends. Challenges come to guide you. You may be going the wrong way. You find out you keep running into a brick wall. Well, the reason is you missed the door. Back up. He's, oh, there's the door. That challenge was trying to direct you the direction you needed to go. Make a change. You know, there was a guy that played the piano. He was an awesome pianist. And that was his goal. That was his desire, is to be a great musician. And he was. He played in a nightclub every night. And one night a customer came in and said, "You know what? I want to hear some singing." Well, the piano player said, "I'm not a singer. I play the piano." The customer went and sat back down, and then he went to the owner of the nightclub and he said, "Look, I'd love to hear some singing tonight. I mean, the piano player is great, but can you get someone to sing?" So the owner of the club walked over to the pianist and he said, "Hey, I want you to sing tonight." The pianist said, "You hired me to play the piano. You hired me to play the piano. You know I'm not a singer. I'm a pianist." The owner of the club looked at him and said, "If you want to keep working here, if you want this job, you're going to sing tonight." Wow. He needed the job. That was his livelihood. He was forced with choosing his livelihood or doing something that he felt he couldn't do. Well, he started singing. That man's name was Nat King Cole.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe help to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight.
Can you imagine him not being a singer? That golden voice, man, I tell you what, I don't know how he thought he couldn't sing. You are what you think about. So create what you want and think about what you want. Let the universe do the rest. Energy flows where attention goes. So whatever you focus on, that's what you're creating. The most powerful thing that we have is focus. When you focus on something, you're creating it. You're putting energy into it. If you're angry about something, you're putting energy into creating that. If you hate something, you're putting energy into creating more of that. If you love something, if you want something, if you desire something, you're putting energy into that to create that. Anybody ever wonder why is it that an elephant never gets the desire to fly south for the winter? You never thought of that? Just me? That's just me? An elephant never gets the desire to fly south for the winter. That's because an elephant cannot fly. God would be playing a cruel joke by giving that elephant the desire to fly south. Imagine that elephant running and flapping his ears. Of course, Jumbo can do it, but that's a cartoon. But that elephant flapping his ears, trying to fly, just frustrated. What a horrible life it would be. But guess what does get the desire to fly south? Birds. Every winter, they fly down here to South Florida and they poop on my car. All that from up north. So God gave the birds the desire to fly south for the winter because they can fly. Tapper, what are you talking about? You would not have the desire to do a certain thing if you were not capable of bringing it to fruition. The mere fact that you have that desire is proof that you can bring it to fruition, because God would not torture you like that. He gives you a desire that He wants you to complete.
It is not death most people are afraid of. It is getting to the end of life only to realize that you never truly lived. There was a study done, a hospital study, on 100 elderly people facing death close to their last breath. They were asked to reflect about their life's biggest regret. Nearly all of them said they regretted not the things they did, but the things they didn't do, the risks they never took, the dreams they didn't pursue. I ask you, will your last words be, if only I hit, hey, you, wake up. Why do you exist? Life is not meant to simply work, wait for the weekend, and pay rent. No, I don't know much, but I know this. Every person on this earth has a gift. And I apologize to the black community, but I can no longer pretend. Martin Luther King, that man never had a dream. That dream had him. See, people don't choose dreams. Dreams choose them. So the question I'm getting to is, do you have the courage to grab the dream that picked you, that befits you and grips you? Or will you let it get away and slip through? You know, I learned a fact about airplanes the other day. Now this was so surprising. See, I was talking to a pilot and he told me that many of his passengers think planes are dangerous to fly in. But he said, actually, it is a lot more dangerous for a plane to stay on the ground. I said, what? Like, how does that sound? Well, he said because on the ground, the plane starts to rust, malfunction, and wear much faster than it ever would if it was in the air. As I walked away, I thought, yeah, makes total sense. Because planes were built to live in the skies, and every person was built to live out the dream they have inside. So it is perhaps the saddest loss to live a life on the ground without ever taking off. See, most of us are afraid of the thief that comes in the night to steal all of our things. But there is a thief in your mind who is after your dreams. His name is doubt. If you see him, call the cops and keep him away from the kids, 'cause he is wanted for murder, for he has killed more dreams than failure ever did. He wears many disguises and like a virus will leave you blinded, divided, and turn you into a kinda. See, kinda is lethal. You know what kinda is. It's a lot of kinda people. You kinda want a career change. You kinda want to get straight A's. You kinda want to get in shape. Simple math, no numbers to crunch. If you kinda want something, then you will kinda get the results you want. What is your dream? What ignites that spark? You can't kinda want that. You gotta want it with every part of your whole heart. Will you struggle? Yeah, you will struggle, no way around it. You will fall many times, but who's counting? Just remember, there's no such thing as a smooth mountain. If you wanna make it to the top, then there are sharp ridges that must be stepped over. There will be times you get stressed and things you get depressed over, but let me tell you something. Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school 3 times, but he kept going. The television execs fired Oprah, said she wasn't fit for TV, but she kept going. Critics told Beyonce that she couldn't sing, she went through depression, but she kept going. Struggle and criticisms are prerequisites for greatness. That is the law of this universe, and no one escapes it. Because pain is life, but you can choose what type. Either the pain on the road to success, or the pain of being haunted with regret. You want my advice? Don't think twice. We have been given a gift that we call life, so don't blow it. You were not defined by your past. Instead, you are born anew in each moment, so own it now. Sometimes you gotta leap and grow your wings on the way down. You better get the shot off before the clock runs out, cause ain't no overtime in life, no do-over. And I know I sound like I'm preaching or speaking with force, but if you don't use your gift, then you sell not only yourself, but the whole world short. So what invention do you have buried in your mind? What idea, what cure, what skill do you have inside to bring out to this universe? Uni meaning one, verse meaning song. You have a part to play in this song. So grab that microphone and be brave. Sing your heart out on life's stage. You cannot go back and make a brand new beginning, but you can start now and make a brand new ending.
Wow. So, in closing, I want to talk about Paul Orfalea. Paul Orfalea struggled in high school. He was a D student at best. But the problem was he was dyslexic. And this was years ago before they really knew what dyslexia was. They put him in the remedial classes. They called him stupid, said that he was retarded, and just gave up on him. He barely graduated high school with a D GPA. He got into college. I don't know how, but he got into USC. First, he took all the classes that the football players took. No offense, football players, but because of the bell curve, he figured he could get a better grade by taking those classes. Secondly, he solicited help from his friends. Paul had picked up this old copy machine, this old Xerox machine, and he would make copies for people, do their reports and things like that in trade for them helping him with his papers. So he had people helping him do his papers. In return, he would do copying for them. He would print out their reports and stuff. Well, he graduated college. He graduated with a D GPA. I don't know if you're going to become a CEO with that GPA, but what happened was Paul had developed a little copying business. He started charging a couple pennies per sheet. The college had let him have this little section outside, and he set up and had a little copying business. People would come to him and get their reports and get their papers copied, and he had a good little business going. Well, one thing I forgot to tell you about Paul Orfalea, he had real curly hair. And his friends gave him a nickname because his hair was so curly, they called him Kinko. Paul Orfalea started Kinko's Copies, which he later sold to FedEx. And now you know it as FedEx Office. That was Kinko's before that. And that was his nickname because of his curly hair. He started the copying business because he was finding a way to make it through college. You see how the creator led him? He thought he was going to college for one thing, but he fulfilled a dream. Now he's a philanthropist, gives money to schools that help dyslexic children. He's helping mankind, and he's successful as a result of it. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Have a great day.